You ever feel like you're stuck babysitting all the tech on your floor instead of it actually helping you out? I was talking with Florian, who runs a company that doesn't build robots, but somehow makes them all play nice together, like a translator, but for machines. And what he's saying flips the whole script. Maybe you don't need to be a robotics expert to manage a whole fleet. Maybe you just need better software. Can robots actually make life easier for the folks already on the floor? Let's find out. Hey everybody, it's Jim Mayer. Welcome back to the Manufacturing Connector Essentials series. Today, I'm talking with Florian Pestoni from In-Orbit.AI about something most folks in the industry are feeling but don't always have the words for. Managing robots is a mess. Florian's not building robots, he's building the glue that makes them all work together. We're diving into robot orchestration, how AI is quietly changing the shop floor, and why being a robot boss might be the future of frontline work. If you're wrestling with digital transformation or just wondering how to actually use all this tech, this one's for you. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like if it helps you out, and let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm Florian Pestoni. I'm the founder and CEO of In-Orbit.AI. Basically, what we do is we are a software platform for robot orchestration. So we are robot agnostic. We work with a large global ecosystem of robotics partners. We can talk to any robot. Think of us as Google Translate for robots. And then we work with large customers. For example, we work with Colgate-Palmolive. And what they do is they have different robotics, both mobile and fixed. They have forklifts. There's all of this complexity in a physical operation. We make it all work better together.
So walk us through the whole concept a little bit more. I mean, and I love the branding, by the way. We make robots work. That's amazing, because a lot of the people who watch my shows, who listen to my shows, they're somewhere in their digital transformation journey, right? A lot of them see a resistance to change. They see these digital tools, this technology waiting in the wings because they lack that adoption. How does this help with that digital transformation, that adoption of the technology?
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting topic. I'm actually giving a talk this afternoon on future-proofing the supply chain.
Okay.
And it's exactly on this idea of digital transformation. I think what we've seen maybe over the last decade is digital transformation is for kind of paperwork, but not for the physical world. Yeah. So part of what we're doing is this idea of software-defined operations. Okay. So going from fixed supply chains, and fixed means brittle, to flexible and software-defined. Wow. And that takes a transformation of OT and IT kind of coming together. Yeah. In the happy place is where they mix. Sometimes they bump heads a little bit. Yeah. But that's part of the process, and I think our whole idea is make it so that somebody who doesn't necessarily who isn't a robotics expert be able to tell the robots what to do, integrate with whether it's a warehouse management system, an ERP, or a manufacturing control system. There's always some piece of software that knows what work needs to be done. So we're the translation layer. We translate from these high-level orders we find the best robot that can do the job, and then we create a mission for that robot to carry out its work, and then we dispatch, and we're getting data all along, so you get analytics, then you can use the data to optimize the flow, but you don't need to be a robot expert.
Got it.
You don't need to just pick one robot and stick with it. I think what we're seeing as well is, at a show like this one, right? Yeah. You walk around and there's dozens of exhibitors, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of robot vendors. Maybe, 10 years ago on mobile robots, you had 5 choices. So each customer would pick one. Now what we're seeing is, customers, will have 50 plants around the world. Everyone is making their own choices. So I think it's the right thing to do to give the plant manager choice, but then you still need to make it all work together.
So, Florian, are customers coming to you and saying, we have this application, we need a robot, we need a solution for this problem, and you're identifying the robot and how to make it work? Or talk us through that process. Yeah. Or I guess, let me back that up too. Or are they coming to you and saying, hey, we've got a UR, we've got a FANUC, we've got X robot. It's not doing what we want.
It's absolutely the latter.
Okay.
So let me start with some of the things that we're not, right? We're not a robot maker. We're
Yep.
not a robot distributor, and we're not a systems integrator.
Okay.
At least in the traditional sense, right?
Yeah.
We're not gonna come to your factory with a rangefinder and a hard hat.
Yeah.
We're a data platform for operations. So typically our customers come to us when they already have usually a bit of a mess, right?
Yeah.
They bought robot A from one vendor, they got an SI to build that workflow, but then in another plant they have something else, and now maybe they have forklifts coexisting with mobile robots and you can't manage the traffic.
Yep.
So usually they already have this pain. And what we do with robot orchestration is try to address the pain. If a customer is thinking about an application for robots, they're too early for us.
Got it. Roger that. Okay. Makes total sense. How does this technology change the lives of the humans that are on the front line?
So part of the idea for us is this idea of human in the loop. This is not about completely substituting people, but giving them kind of superpowers. Failure there could be if you require people to become robotics experts. So what we try to do is make it super simple. So for example, you could control a robot with a tablet like this one, just press a few buttons. It's all very intuitive. Anyone who has played a video game can use our software. So that's kind of like
Awesome.
making it so more, kind of like democratizing
Yeah.
the use of robots. Also kind of like maybe demystifying robots, right? Making them less threatening, I guess.
Yeah.
Because what we see is it's allowing people to be more productive. And with, we're all familiar with the labor shortages. If you think about demographics, which is almost impossible to revert.
Yeah.
You have countries with negative population growth. I think that's coming to the US in maybe in a decade or two. So you have to find a way to do more with the people that you have. Having everyone become a robotics technician also doesn't scale. So we actually kind of prioritize ease of use, and different users, for example, get a view that's customized for them. So if you're a plant manager, you would see all your robots. If you're in corporate, you see the whole world, but maybe not at the same level of detail. If you're an operator on the floor, maybe you have, some simple buttons. And the beauty is, instead of having to retrain for each robot, you have one single pane of glass to manage everything. So you train once, and then that reduces the cycle.
And I may be totally off base because this is your product, but to me, what I see this also being able to do is help close the skills gap a little bit.
Exactly.
Because you're upskilling in a way that brings technology, brings what young people are used to having in their hands.
Exactly.
You're bringing it to them, not forcing them to go to that technology. Am I off base in that?
You're 100% on target with that. I think that's what we're excited about. I think everyone's talking about bringing manufacturing back to the US. If you're relying on heavy physical labor, it's a heavy lift for people, like sometimes literally. I think with robots, I think it gives you access. It's a digital technology. You kind of become the robot boss.
Yeah, absolutely.
With our platform. And I think that's empowering.
I love it.
It's more attractive. I think you can bring people with various levels of physical ability. You're not relying only on physical strength.
Yep.
Somebody has a bad back.
Yep.
Today or in the old days, they would have been out of job. Now they can, be directing, $5 million worth of robots.
Yeah.
And then when they go back home or they're having a beer with their friends, it's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a robot boss. It's kind of cool.
That is cool. Florian, what haven't I asked you that you want to share with the audience?
Let's talk about AI a little bit. This morning here at Automate, Deepu Challa from NVIDIA, who's one of our partners, talked about the importance of physical AI. So we've been working with NVIDIA and with other partners on bringing AI into the physical world.
Okay.
Now, we don't make robots, as I mentioned, so we're not teaching the robot how to grasp something. But we're kind of like the eye in the sky that sees everything that's happening in the plant. And there are so many opportunities for optimization there. What we see is, for example, with even manual forklifts, which we can track on our system, the level of utilization sometimes is very low. You may have 100 forklifts in a million square foot plant, but at any given time, there's like 5 or 6 that are running. I mean, sometimes numbers are that bad. So finding ways to optimize that, you can do a little bit by observation.
Sure.
Somebody who's on the ground. If you can see everything all at once, turn it into data, simulate that phase, and 1 million orders in like 10 minutes.
I love it.
Now you can train. What we do that's a little special is we can do that in a closed loop. So we know what the robots are doing. We know those orders that are coming in. We understand the space. We can run missions, then simulate, then make the missions a little bit better, and then keep that cycle going. So I think that's something that's pretty unique, and
I love.
It ties with what I mentioned earlier about software defined, right? It's not fixed. You measured it and now you programmed it and you can change it until you call in. It's changing every day. It gets better than yesterday.
Absolutely.
But not as good as tomorrow.
Yeah, man, this was awesome. Great to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, that's a wrap on this one. A huge thanks to Florian for breaking down what robot orchestration actually means and why it doesn't have to be intimidating. If you're thinking, yeah, this sounds like the missing link in my operation, you're not alone. For more conversations like this from folks doing the work, make sure you subscribe, tap the like button, and follow along. Got questions or want to share your own experience? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. Catch you on the next episode.